record on this computer. Okay. All right, let's go again, guys. Everybody here, welcome. Welcome to those of you that weren't able to join, who've just joined us now. Let's share the screen here and get back to where we were. All right, so we're going to shut that down. All good. Okay. Everybody here? Everybody see me? All good. All right, so we were talking about Desikachar. So he developed the Vinyasa, and Vinyasa has got a lot of the Hatha yoga qualities for me, the way I see Hatha yoga now. If you go into a studio and you do a typical Hatha yoga class. So really individualizing the class so tailor making it to each person in the class, and that will get on a little bit further using blocks, modifications, and very accessible type of yoga. So we have a look, what do we expect from a Hatha yoga class? So I know for myself, I absolutely love Hatha yoga. Hatha yoga for me is, I love any kind of yoga. I do Vinyasa and Ashtanga, all of them. But I compare Hatha yoga, one of my best yoga studio in the whole world is Yogacara in Whistler, and they do a very typical Hatha yoga class. So I compare it to when I go for a run and when I go for a walk. So when I go for a run, that's my Vinyasa yoga. It reflects my state of mind almost in a way.
Yeah, okay. No, you're recording. I just got the message from Catherine that you should record, but you're recording. So yeah.
Are you sure I'm recording?
Yes, it says so in my display. It says so. It should be fine. I don't know where she sent it.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. So when I go for a run, it's literally that physical feeling of kind of jolting around, and it's quite frenetic, and you're seeing everything through a different lens, and breathing hard, and that's the one thing. That's kind of a Vinyasa or a power yoga for me. When I go for a walk, it's calm, it's gentle, breathing is gentle, it's quite meditative. I get to look around and see things around me, and it totally reflects my state of mind. The quietness of the walk is how I feel internally, whereas when I'm running around, it's quite frenetic and jarring, and that's kind of the way I see it. Hatha yoga for me is the walk. So it's that kind of, I have time to kind of marinate in the poses, adjust the poses a little bit, look out for the sensations in my body, notice my breath, notice everything that's going on with the heart rate, with the body, with the sensations, rather than moving quite quickly through poses, which is amazing. I love to do as well. I love to kind of move and get it. In a Hatha class, you're not going to be building up a sweat from cardio. So not moving a lot, it's not a dynamic kind of movement, but not to say it's not tough. I taught a class this morning where we held poses, and that can be just as tough, but you're not going to get that kind of the gasping for breath cardio that you might get in a power yoga class or in a Vinyasa class where it gets quite cardio. So what do we expect from a yoga class? More on the gentle, calm, basic, slow, static side. So we get the Vinyasas and the power yogas and the Ashtangas where there's more of a flow. We would use the words gentle, calm, basic, slow, and static for Hatha. We know that Hatha is an umbrella term described for any form of physical yoga. So there are other types of yoga, which I'm sure Fidoz has gone through with you. Karma yoga, that's the path of selfless service. Bhakti yoga, the path of devotion. Jnana yoga is the yoga of the mind. Japa, the science of mantra repetition. And Raja is the investigation of the mind. So that just shows us, I always used to believe that yoga was yoga, it was always physical moving. What did they mean by Hatha? But Hatha is the physical yoga. So you can see that those are not the physical yoga. There's kind of devotion and service, etc. involved with them. So modern day Hatha, very adaptive type of yoga, more about, and I love this, when I teach, I like to say, adapting the pose to the body rather than the body to the pose. And that's the way I like to do yoga. Sometimes we look at these pictures of Mr. Iyengar, whoever the case is, in these pretzel poses, and we're trying to get our bodies into those poses. Whereas I feel it's the other way around. Use your body and your capability to get into the pose. So Hatha yoga has a certain accessibility to everyone, for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all. So it's a very tailor-made type of yoga. So we're adjusting it for the individual. The word Hatha yoga, in the Western world and today, modern yoga, it is described as Hath, which is the sun, and Ta for the moon, Hatha. So the actual Sanskrit word for Hatha, Hatha means force, but we've come to adapt it as Hatha as moon, as sun and moon. So in that we've got this kind of duality of the sun, strong, stimulating, vibrant, and kind of active and dynamic, versus quiet, the qualities of the moon, quiet, nurturing, introspective, receptive, and restorative. So there's these two kind of opposing, sun and moon, strength and flexibility. So we see that there's a balance. So for me, a modern day Hatha yoga class, when I teach Hatha, is balanced. So there's strength, it's the side of strength, which is then balanced with the flexibility. So there is a nurturing kind of restorative sense to it in the poses, but there's also a strength. So holding, for instance, the class this morning was powerful, holding, so you get the strength from that, but there was a lot of also floor work, grounding, quiet stillness. So you've got the Hatha, the sun and the moon. It's always designed to align and calm mind, body and spirit. I think most yoga is, but specifically Hatha. So who's yoga good for? So who would choose to do Hatha over a vinyasa or a Bikram or Ashtanga? Someone who's looking for a slow flow. And I'm generally someone who's looking for a slow flow. I am, those classes that I always think back to the Jane Fonda aerobics days, when you just got into that sequence and they changed it. Or we're doing that step aerobics class and suddenly you just got into it and then it all changed again. So this is a slow flow that everyone can keep up with. It's a meditative process and practice. So those looking for the slow flow, beginners, great for beginners. If it's slower and it's more static and it's more meditative, so that whole keeping up with the sequence is ruled out for beginners. If a beginner comes, they don't know what a Virabhadrasana 2 is or UTTANASANA. So it's good for them to be able to understand it, process it, and to be in the poses for a little bit longer and to be able to be adjusted and modify poses. Great for beginners, good for bigger bodies. For all those reasons again, static, slower, being able to prop. Elderly also wouldn't be feeling great in a flow, vinyasa flow class. So props might be needed here, needing to hold the poses a little bit longer, being a little quieter and a little more basic and simple. Thanks, elderly. Can you believe this picture? This is a picture of a woman, an 83-year-old, she might have been 86, but I'll say 83 on the conservative type, who suffered from hyperkyphosis, so she's got that rounding of the spine, hunchback, and she had scoliosis, which is curvature of the spine. The difference between, that is the same woman. She only started her yoga practice with that lady with the long hair, Rachel Jessian, at the age of 83. She went from that to that. So that was working on individual basis, one-on-one, carefully, slowly, meditatively. Okay. Adaptive yoga for injury and illness. So that makes complete sense as well. Tailor-making a certain sequence or practice for someone who has certain limitations. Pregnancy, same thing. Someone who's not looking for a fast flow, who needs to modify poses, who needs to use props, who might need to be a bit more static, who needs to slow down a little bit, but is still looking for all the benefits that yoga gives: breathing, meditation, strength, flexibility. So a typical Hatha class is a slow pace, it's meditative, it's static, and the length is anywhere between 45 to 90 minutes. So the poses that we can expect in a Hatha yoga class: Tadasana, Uttanasana, so very basic poses, tree pose, bow pose, Paschimottanasana, forward bend. And then there's an element of breathing. So if I'm giving a Hatha class, I generally like to do a breathing practice. So there's a whole bunch of those, and I know Carla has seen you, so you've got all your in-depth info on pranayama. So these are just some kind of examples used in a Hatha class. We get Diya Swasan. This is deep three-part breathing, where we start in the belly, so breathing from the belly. This is called the diaphragmatic breathing, and then breathing up into the chest, intercostal breathing, and then the upper chest would be clavicular breathing, where the clavicle is. So it's three parts, moving the breath up like an elevator. If you did that to the count of 4, then you would exhale the same way down, back into the stomach for the count of 8. So the exhale is double the amount of the inhale. Very calming, very soothing, gentle type of breathing. Then we have Anulom Viloma, which is alternate nostril breathing. Also, this is a gentle balancing of the nervous system type of breath. And another example is Kapalabhati skull shining breath, so breath of fire. That one can be quite fiery. That's the one where we have a passive inhale. So we just allow the inhale, and then it's a forceful exertion on the exhale, drawing the stomach in. So it's interesting that Kapalabhati, when I've done some research and reading up on it, some people say that Kapalabhati is not a pranayama. So pranayama in the general sense of breathing technique, because pranayama means control of energy. But in this day and age, we use it as pranayama as a breathing technique. And some people have said that Kapalabhati is not a pranayama. It's actually one of the 6 kriyas in Hatha yoga. And the kriyas are the purifying and cleansing techniques that were used way back when in yoga. So we had things like some of the other kriyas, so Kapalabhati, but it was used, they say, as one of the cleansing techniques to cleanse the sinuses. And then another kriya in Hatha yoga would be something like neti. You know those neti pots where you breathe, you inhale the water to flush out the sinuses. There's another one, basti, which is clearing out the gastric system, stomach. Traktaka is your gaze on a fixed point, usually a candle without blinking. So this is said to stimulate the tear ducts, which then is a visual system cleansing. So there's a few of those, and Kapalabhati can be included in those, so as one of the 6 kriyas. But we also, if you often, if we go to classes these days, they use Kapalabhati breathing as a pranayama. It's quite an intense, warming breath. So if you're pregnant or suffer from epilepsy, etc., we wouldn't be doing that breath in a class. And it's also lowers carbon dioxide in the body so that there's more oxygen available in the body. So these are just type of breathing practices that we might use in a Hatha class. Nice to begin in a Hatha yoga class with breathing. And then you would have your average poses for warm-up, just gentle, basic warming up. And then moving on into the body of your class. So you can see basic poses. And then ending with a meditation, so a short meditation. So that's also why I like the fact that the classes are up to 90 minutes to include all of this. If you want to include a really good solid pranayama and a meditation, class needs to be a bit longer for that. And then we come to the use of props. So this is a big one. And we said that Hatha yoga is accessible, it's accommodating. We look at individuals, so that Vini yoga, we mentioned in the beginning, very much an individualized and tailor-made practice. And actually, just to mention on the Vini yoga, there are 4 distinguishing features. So the one is function over form. So it's the art of using the form in poses to create specific results. There's breathing and adaptation. So breath is on, emphasis is on the breath as a medium of movement and creating patterns of movement, of breathing to create different effects in a sequence. And that's the second one. The third one is, there's the art of science, the art and the science of sequencing, which allows a teacher to create different sequences of intensity, orientation, and length specifically for an individual. And then the last one is repetition and stay. So repeating poses a few times and staying longer in the poses. So we see some of that coming into Hatha as well. So coming on to props, we all have used props at some stage. Blocks, the wall. I love using the wall in yoga. Blankets, straps, chairs, bolsters, and ropes. So these are all accessible in Hatha yoga. So we use props for optimal alignment. So I'm sure you can all think of a couple of poses where you need props for, well, where you can use props for alignment. Everyone give me a hands up. Anyone who give me some examples?
You're frozen. I can't hear you anymore.
Ah, can you hear me now? Heads? Can you hear me?
And now I can hear you again. I just lost you for the last minute.
Okay, might just be on a little bit of a connection problem. All good, hear me now. All right, so anyone think of examples of props to help with alignment in a class? So for instance, I'll give you an example. If someone is in coming into Pinchamayurasana, a nice thing would be to use a strap on the forearms as getting the elbow, making sure that, or even the block around the hands to make sure that we get the arms in the right place. So that would be an example of alignment. Or someone in a pigeon pose who's kind of sinking to the side, you could possibly prop up the one hip with a block. Anyone else got some ideas? Yeah? Kara?
Yeah, when I started with Hatha yoga, we used to do shoulder stand at the wall and kind of starting with our hip at the wall facing to the side and then swinging the legs up, and then we used to kind of press our feet into the wall so that our shins and thighs would be angled.
Yeah.
And we could use this to kind of practice pushing the hips kind of forward to really lift up, and only then would we straighten out the legs.
Very good one. So use of the chair comes in a lot. Yeah, the chair's been used for, you know, I've seen someone practicing back bends on chairs to try and get the right alignment. So chairs, blocks, the wall. Yeah, so that's a really good one. Proprioceptive feedback. That's that proprioception is where we are in space. So I know for me personally, I've got scoliosis, so I'm a little bit twisted. So I'm never really sure, you know, what's front and what's back, or are my hips in the right place, or my shoulders. So one I think is a great one for proprioceptive feedback is the wall. That's a really good one. If you've got your hands against, for instance, if you're doing Virabhadrasana 3, Warrior 3 with hands against the wall, then you can see that the hands are straight, and you use that with either with the hands or the feet. If you've got your heel on the wall, that tells me where my hips are. Because, you know, if I'm in the middle of the room and I lift my leg up into Virabhadrasana 3, Warrior 3, I'm not quite sure what the hips are doing. I can't really feel. So if I've got my foot on the wall, I know exactly where my hips are. So that's a good one. I often do classes where I teach things like Ardha Chandrasana and Trikonasana against the wall. So having the students line up against the wall and use the back of the wall for the back of the body. So taking sometimes, for instance, in Trikonasana, the body is a little bit further forward. So if we take the body all the way to the back, we can to the wall, we can actually see, that's exactly where I'm supposed to be. So that gives me a good sense. Or with Ardha Chandrasana, taking out things like balance. I don't have to worry so much about the balance. I can focus on other things in my pose. So that's the wall for proprioceptive feedback. Facilitate or extend poses. So making poses easier. So there's a lot of those. Anyone got any suggestions? Anyone? No? So making a pose easier, how about using blocks? So if someone came into Parsvartanasana to pyramid pose, or into Uttanasana where they had restricted hamstrings, couldn't get all the way down to the floor, use blocks. Put your hands on blocks. Things like, again, shoulder stand using a chair. So not coming into full shoulder stand, but maybe a half shoulder stand using a chair. Extending poses as well. So the other one's thinking of blocks with Trikonasana. So when you want to bring the floor closer to you, Parivrita Trikonasana, Ardha Chandrasana, blocks are great for that. Extending poses, so we can facilitate, make the poses easier, but we can also make them a little bit harder using props as well. So if you think of someone in Paschimottanasana and they're just kind of reaching over and taking the toes, no problem. Maybe you get them to hold a block at the soles of their feet. So extending the arms, now it's a little bit harder to reach. It's not as easy. Anyone else? Must be some ideas. Yes.
The use of straps.
Absolutely, that's a big one. So using straps in terms of, think of a Gomakasana. You've got someone who can't get their fingertips together, use a strap. That's a good one. Anyone else? No? Okay, and then props to assist with relaxation. There's tons of those. So think about lying on your back in Shavasana, putting a bolster under the knees, or lying with the feet up the walls, just over a bolster. Chair Shavasana is a great one, lying with your legs up on a chair. That's a nice restorative pose.
Sandbags.
Yes, somebody wants to say something?
Maybe sandbags.
Sandbags, that's a good one. Actually, I didn't put that list in my, that in my list there. Sandbags is a great one. Yeah. So we often use sandbags in Iyengar, or, just, I used it a lot in the back here, where we put them lying down on the shoulders just to release shoulders, or when you've got your legs up the wall, putting it on the soles of the feet feels really, really good. It's a good one. Yep. Anyone else? No? Okay. Balance. So using blocks again for something like our Ardha Chandrasana for a bit of balance, or both hands on the wall you could use for balance. Support. Anyone think of anything for support? We spoke about things like Pincha Mayurasana and headstand.
Bridge.
With the strap. What's that?
Bridge.
Bridge, absolutely. So a passive bridge, putting the block under the sacrum and then just allowing the pelvis to be nice and heavy. So for support, that's a good one. There's also things, remember, like the ropes at the walls for, I don't know if you've ever come into Adho Mukha with the ropes around the hips and a nice stretch out. So that's a good one to use. Posture. How would we use props for posture?
You can use the wall.
You can use the wall, definitely, standing up against the wall. Yeah. You can use a block. Take a block to the top of your head. I often get students to lift the crown of their head up into the block. That gives you that sense of axial extension. So lengthening, using the block between your legs to squeeze in and pull up. Yeah. Possibly rounded shoulders with a strap. Do that little strap jacket to pull the shoulders back. That's a good one for posture. Yeah, I see a hand. Everyone's very quiet. Okay, so we just need to get creative with our props. I mean, support, another one, a big one. Think of things like Uttanasana, soles of the feet together. You might prop the knees up or the outside of the hips with blocks.
Use a strap around the ankles and waist with that as well.
Yes, straps is something like a chair shavasana, lying in chair shavasana with the strap around the thighs. That's a great one. Yep, good.
Sandbags.
What's that?
Sandbags in Uttanasana.
Sandbags.
Just
Yes.
obviously, if the person can take that and it's
Exactly.
comfortable in the position, you can increase their range by
Exactly.
legs.
That's a good one. So that would fall under the extended poses. So taking them a little bit further. Yeah, rather than having someone manually do it for you, put the sandbags on, extend the pose. Yeah, that's a really good one.
I love that.
Yeah, feels really good. Yeah, that's great. Okay. And then let's have a look. Oh. So just a few pictures. That's that beautiful chair shavasana we were talking about. She looks super amazing. That's a really good pose for your back, by the way. So she's supported her neck. She might have a little bit of a straight neck. She's got a little washcloth underneath. And over here, she could put a strap around her thighs as well, just to keep that stability in the pelvis. She's using her chair. I couldn't resist. I had to include it. I thought maybe some of us could do this in aerial yoga. That would work. Alignment. So pigeon, as we mentioned, if you're rolling over to the one side, you could prop up. And then for support, he's got the strap around his arms, making sure that they don't splay out to the side. The other one is so he's also using the wall there for support. He's using a block between his hands. And I don't know if you've ever seen people doing headstand in between two chairs. That's another one. So that's good use of prop if you want to take the pressure off the top of the head and the cervical spine. Okay, so then those are just a few examples. So here, Hatha, there's been a few research papers on Hatha. If we think about the breathing, the meditation, and the physical side of it, those three together are a really, really good combination for someone suffering from something like cardiovascular disease. So it's a good option for them. You know, doctors say, I think you should do yoga. So what they're saying is, I think you should do yoga for the zenness of it and the releasing of stress, but also for that physical activity of it. And a good choice would be Hatha because it's a little bit slower, it's a little bit more basic. It's not as strenuous as something like a power yoga or a vinyasa. So there's been a number of studies to show that yoga benefits cardiovascular health. It helps lower heart disease risk as much as conventional exercise such as brisk walking. So they take brisk walking matching up to Hatha yoga because, as we said, it's less strenuous than some of the others. So it incorporates, as I mentioned, physical activity, breathing, and meditation. So all of this combination together are elements to positively affect cardiovascular risk factors. Emotional stress, we all know that stress is a huge influence on our physical well-being and the heart, cardiovascular. So with stress, there's the release of hormones, of cortisol and things like adrenaline, which narrow the arteries, and that's a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Also increases blood pressure. So yoga helps to lower blood pressure, lower cholesterol, lower blood glucose levels, as well as heart rate. So there's a recipe. I think it's what are those things? I want to say, prescription that doctors should be handing out in their offices. Reduces frequency of atrial fibrillation, that is arrhythmia. That's where your heart beats irregularly. So they found that it reduces the frequency of this. There was an 8-week program that was handed out, and the people that took part in it, it showed that they lowered blood levels for markers for inflammation. So the inflammation markers had dropped, which contributes to heart disease. So It's the gift that keeps on giving. It's a less strenuous form of exercise and one of the less strenuous forms of yoga. It's effective and a safe option for weight loss. That comes up quite a lot. And so it's been shown to be effective with smoking, stopping smoking. So, and then that's obviously going to have a impact on cardiovascular disease. So a lot of good things in Hatha. Anybody got any input or any questions? Is that kind of the feel of what everyone thinks of when they see Hatha on this yoga schedule?
I am actually a little bit confused, I have to say.
Yes.
Because first you say Hatha is an umbrella term for physical yoga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's also an umbrella, so it includes vinyasa as well.
So Hatha yoga, when we refer to Hatha yoga, that is the physical side of yoga. So anything where we're moving and we're using asanas. So where there's
vinyasa.
Yeah. So any yoga where...
Can maybe elaborate on my question, because what I really didn't get from this presentation is what is modern Hatha yoga. There was a lot of emphasis on restorative, all the prop things for relaxation. Yes. I would rather put into the category of restorative, which can be used in a vinyasa class at the end as well, and can also be used in a Hatha class. There was a lot about the breathing, which is one essential part of vinyasa as well. So that is not a distinguishing part of vinyasa. So there were a lot of things that you talked about with respect to Hatha that I totally agree on, but where I don't see the difference to vinyasa. So is it only the slower pace that makes it in vinyasa or a Hatha? So that is what I didn't get. And I think you can also do a Hatha class without any props. I did a lot of, you can do it.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
And that is what it's not really clear for me. And I don't know about the studies, but I think I know one or two of them, and they are not specifically on Hatha yoga. They are on, like you say, yoga. So the claim that it is like good for weight loss or smoking or this 8-week yoga program, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't just say it's Hatha yoga. So for me, what's missing is what is Hatha yoga as compared to all the other things we already learned.
So the distinguishing features of Hatha are the fact that, so if you're comparing Hatha compared to Vinyasa, Vinyasa has got linking your breath to movement, whereas Hatha yoga normally doesn't have the flow, much more static. Static poses using meditation, pranayama, and so each class should have a meditation, should have a pranayama, and should have the physical poses within it. And it's really, the distinguishing factors are that it's a lot slower, that it's a lot more basic, that you're holding the poses for a lot longer. So those are the things that are distinguishing it from a vinyasa flow or power yoga or ashtanga. So and that's specifically linked to modern yoga, modern Hatha yoga.
Yeah, that's it. But I know a lot of teachers who teach a very slow vinyasa. So for me, then there is no real distinguishing line between the two of them, because there's a lot of pranayama at the beginning in vinyasa classes as well, as far as I know them. So it's just the pace then for you, and the longer holds probably.
Yeah, and the basic, I think if you had to go to a vinyasa class and a Hatha class here, you would find quite a distinct difference from the flow and the transitions. You don't have those. It's more basic. You don't have the complicated transitions and the fast moving transitions. So it's a lot more static. So for us if we go to a yoga studio now and it says Hatha, I know that I'm not, as I said in the beginning, it's not going to be cardiovascular at all. It's going to be moving a lot slower, and the poses are going to be a lot more basic. We're going to be holding the poses for a lot longer. So that really is the differences.
Okay.
Hatha, yeah. Does that make sense for everybody else, or do you also feel that you're not quite sure of the differences? If you went into your experience of everyone, if you've gone into a Hatha yoga class, how do you what is your feeling of a Hatha as opposed to Vinyasa class been? Has there been much difference?
For me, I get it. It's just the pace for me that is fine. But it's like then I don't get what I had to get from the presentation, because a lot of things you said were also true for Vinyasa or for restorative. So that is the only thing I just took from it now, and that is what I wanted to ask is, so it's different from Vinyasa in the way that it is slower and poses are hold for a longer time. There is a lot of times there's specific integration of pranayama, and there's a lot of integration of meditation, which can also be the same in Vinyasa, but it is more likely that you find that in a Hatha class, and that's the takeaway. Did I get it right?
Yes. So for people who, and as we went through pregnant people, elderly people, beginners, Hatha would be the better choice for all those reasons.
Yeah, but it depends on the pregnant woman. I wouldn't have. It's like always, and also the alignment thing that also like confused me a bit, because we are now learning that there is no correct alignment, and that there's no way of saying, well, why should we do the Trikonasana at a wall if we want to focus on other things? So is it that in Hatha yoga you would insist on a certain kind of alignment, and would you use the wall to teach people, for example, to have the hips straight instead of taking the hip with you and things like that? For me, I can't answer these questions now after this presentation, and that is what I would have been interested in.
Yeah. So I think, it's not as rigid as Iyengar when it comes to alignment, using the wall. I think what it does is it gives someone a reference point, somewhere to work for when I use the wall, it is a starting, for instance, if it's a beginner, it's a starting point for someone to be able to know where the pose is going. And I understand what you're saying with the alignment, but the Hatha yoga is very individually sort of tailor-made for people. So
that was contradictory for me. You say it's tailor-made on the one hand, and then there's a correct alignment. So that is
I think
something.
It's just, using props, and that is to help people to, if someone isn't able to get into a pose or doesn't know where they're going with the pose, the wall is going to be a good guide, or a block is going to be a good guide for them. So that's where the props come into it.
Can I add something to this? I've been raising my hand, but I think...
Sorry, Carol.
It hasn't been seen. Like the way I understood it, to me, it didn't come across that there is a specific alignment, especially since it was said in the beginning that like the pose adjusts to the body, as opposed to the body adjusting to the pose. And maybe to just from my experience, I haven't been to a Hatha yoga class in so long, so I'm also very much looking forward to the class that's going to follow. So maybe that has changed, but I started practicing with Hatha yoga, and maybe this will make also the distinction a bit easier. Like in Vinyasa, even in slow Vinyasa, we would kind of connect the movements together. We would come from down dog, stepping forward into high lunge, and then maybe opening into warrior two or whatever. And from Hatha yoga, I know we start, for example, in Tadasana, and then we then we just set up for warrior two on the left side, and then we come back into Tadasana, let's say, and we do warrior two on the right side. So is it still like this, that you take one pose and then you do it on the left and then on the right, and then you say, okay, now we're going to move into a different pose, left and right?
Exactly. So the Vinyasa, you have that, the link and the flow of it, as you say, coming from doing a Vinyasa and then coming into downward facing dog, linking. So those transitions are very different, whereas the Hatha yoga is more static poses. So there isn't the link. So it's doing one side on one pose, and then without doing the vinyasas in between. That's exactly it.
Yeah, I would say even Eva, you know, my experience, I actually haven't done vinyasa classes. My background is entirely Hatha, and it's about being able to stop in the class and you sort of faff around a bit because the teacher comes in and like, okay, you can use a block. Oh, look, I can see you could use help with the strap. And then you're all sort of trying it out and you're staying on that one pose for a while. You know, you're really trying to figure out how your body can, so it works amazingly for beginners. And also, you know, what we do a lot with the Hatha classes is it's teaching not just, okay, this is what you want to be feeling in this pose and whatnot, but it's a teaching kind of thing. When you're in the vinyasa, you would be moving more, you're creating that sequence, whereas Hatha, you're stepping back and you're saying, okay, feel this moment in your body, feel the breath. How can you improve this? Take a moment and feel what's nice in the body, what's not working, how can you adjust? So it's a much
pose. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference in between Iyengar and Hatha?
Iyengar brings in the props, and essentially Hatha is covering that whole section. So I think originally Hatha would have not been bringing in props. Iyengar brought that, so now class nowadays is being influenced by Iyengar to use props. But originally Hatha didn't have the props until Iyengar started influencing it.
Yeah. And then there's also the other side of Iyengar being a lot more militant, and there's a lot more kind of precision in Iyengar as well. Yeah.
Okay.
But there are similarities with Hatha and Iyengar, as you mentioned, with the props and also, you know, spending time and it being static. Iyengar is also very kind of static, slow moving, really getting a sense and experiencing the pose. Yeah.
Because wouldn't you say, Claire, that now in modern day Hatha is basically being influenced by all the people who've broken off from Hatha to create these extra little bits? So our modern one is influenced by Iyengar, is influenced by Sivananda, is influenced. So it's not almost that pure Hatha you had once upon a time. It's almost like it started here, people broke off here, and then they all just filtered back up to here.
Yeah, took a little bit each with them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice to discuss. Yes, who's talking?
May I add something? It's Roxanne.
Yes.
Also, like with Vinyasa, it's one breath, one movement, and that's why the pace of Vinyasa is really faster, because you breathe in like up and then you exhale down and you move like that the entire time, even though now teachers tend to slow it down much more because they realize the benefit of actually holding postures much more than just flowing. And then like Hatha is, I mean, how I saw Hatha yoga like since the beginning was that it was really brought to prepare the body for meditation. So they were doing a couple of postures that didn't have necessarily that creative flow in between. It was kind of like, you know, getting the body to be really comfortable to sit after
for something. Yes.
Yeah. Vinyasa doesn't really have that. Yes, the teachers might do meditation, but it's not kind of like getting the body. I mean, you do get the body ready for Shavasana at the end and everything, but it's not the same of building up that creative flow and all the theme, the creative stuff that the Vinyasa comes in with. Whereas the Hatha is much more kind of like, not structural, but yeah, like
absolutely.
basic.
So Vinyasa has that, the flow of it, but also there's almost a dance-like quality of it. So you're saying that, you know, the creative, etc., where Hatha is more structured around each individual pose. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Nice feedback. Everyone else who's got anything else? No? Let's see. Okay. Are we ready to move?
Yes.
Anyone else got any questions or any input? No? So I'm going to stop share so I can come back and see everybody. Ah, there we go. All right. One moment. Let me just. I keep hearing a little. I'm trying to get. Oh. That little buzzing noise. Okay. All right. So I think let's come into our practice. So we are going to start in Sukhasana. So sitting on the mat, legs crossed, and we're going to start with a little bit of breathing. Okay, so I'm going to shift my computer. I'll do the class with you. It's better for recording.
Sorry, Claire.
Yes. Yes.
Is this class going to be an hour? So we'll finish at
It
2?
will probably be just over, it will be over an hour, probably about an hour 15.
Okay, I'm going to shoot off because I'm going to have to leave at 1:30.
Okay.
So I'll catch up a bit later. Do we know the time so I can just fast forward when I look at the recording later? So like, have we been speaking for like an hour or, sorry. I don't want to do half the class and
how do I check that?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it doesn't.
No, sorry, I'm sure that I can find it.
So I'll send you the recording.
Okay, brilliant. All right.
I'll have a look through the recording when I send it. Okay.
All right, cool. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Enjoy.
Okay. Letting me know.
Bye. Bye.
Okay. All right. So everyone see me okay? All right. So let's come into Sukhasana, legs crossed, back the shins, take the soles of the feet to the outside of the knees, sit up tall, back is straight. And just closing the eyes, taking some full breaths in and out through the nose. Just watching the rise and fall of the breath. Noticing the heart rate. We'll be checking in with the breath and the heart rate throughout the class. So getting a sense of where you are at the moment. Feeling the sit bones grounding into the earth. Becoming aware of the space above you and around you. And the air on your skin. And the light touch of your clothing. And taking one more full breath through the nose. Then exhale on the side through the mouth. And gently begin to blink the eyes open. And now that we are grounded, we're going to come into a few rounds of alternate nostril breathing. So we're going to take the forefinger and the middle finger in towards the hand. We'll be using the thumb and the ring finger for our breathing. And I'm going to demonstrate 1 or 2 rounds, and you can close the eyes and join me and do a few rounds together. So I begin by blocking the right side of my nostril with my thumb. Breathing in through the left nostril. Close the left nostril and exhale through the right. Inhale through the right nostril. Block the right nostril, exhale through the left. And you can join me. Inhale through the left. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Exhale left. Inhale through the left. Exhale through the right. And continue a few rounds in your own time. And then just completing the last round that you're on. And once you've done that, just come back to natural, normal breathing. And then the last next inhale, breathing in through the nose. And exhale with the sigh through the mouth. Gently blinking the eyes open. Let's come to lie down on our backs. Reach the arms up overhead, give yourself a big stretch. Bend and flex the feet. And then take your arms back alongside the body. Bend the knees, soles of the feet on the floor. Take your hands onto your right knee and gently squeeze the knee in towards the chest. Bending at the elbows. And then straightening the arms out. Taking the knee further in the direction of the top of your mat. And inhale here. And then exhale as you draw the knee in towards the chest, bend the elbows. Inhale to straighten out. And exhale, bring the knee in towards the chest. And bend the left knee to join the right knee and lower the right foot onto the floor, taking hold of the left knee and drawing in towards the chest. Inhale to straighten out your arms. And exhale to bring the knee in towards the chest. Let's do that with control, nice and slowly, 2 more times. And last one. And bringing both knees in towards the chest here. Just rocking gently from side to side. Taking both hands to the knees, and let's begin to make some small circles with the knees, keeping the lower back stuck to the floor. So keeping the hips nice and level, just making small circles in one direction. Start to make them a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. Trying not to rock the hips from left to right. And then let's continue to do this in the opposite direction. Just 3 or 4 times. And then let's just release the left foot to the floor. Take the right ankle, cross it above the left knee, reaching through behind the back thigh and then pulling the leg towards you. Just maybe using that right elbow to nudge that right knee away from you, flexing both feet. Just checking in again with the breath, maybe closing the eyes. Feeling where you feel the sensations in your body. little stretch. And the hips and the glutes. And then release, let's change sides. Left foot, the knee, reaching through. We hold the back of the thigh and elbow to the inside of the knee, flexing both feet. And release. Take the hands to the back of the knees and just come up to roll up to seated, crossing the legs, coming into Sukhasana, taking the arms out long on either side of you, and then reaching the back of the hands towards each other. So opening up the chest, rolling the shoulders back, and pinching the shoulder blades together. So see how far you can get the arms back. That's your inhale. And then on your exhale, take the arms around as though you've got a big exercise board in front of you. Hollow the front body, draw navel to spine, and lean back into the pose. Activate the front body. Inhale to rise up, sitting back, taking the shoulder blades together, arms back. And exhale to round, navel to spine. Activate front body. And one more time, inhale, open up. And exhale to round. Now take both arms up, interlace the hands, take the palms up facing the ceiling. Take a deep inhale here. Grounded well with this left sit bone. You're going to side bend to the right. So don't allow that left sit bone to come up. Inhale back to center. And exhale, side bend towards the left. And back to center. Place the hands on the knees and let's start to make some leg circles. So leaning forward on the inhale, pushing chest forward, circling all the way back. Take hold of the knees as you get to the back and round the spine, hollow the front body as you come round again. Let's do 2 more in this direction. Inhale in the front, exhale to the back. And we've got 1 more. So as though you're a spoon in a pot stirring. And let's come back to center, and then let's reverse those circles, come the other way. Nice controlled, smooth movements. Again, checking the sensations using the breath. And 1 more here. Good. And then coming back to center. Taking the hands behind you, fingertips facing forward. Lift the hips and push on the knife edges of the feet. Take the neck in line with the spine, puff up the chest. Hold for 2 breaths. And release. Change the cross of the legs now. So Sukhasana the other way. Want to sit up. Take the arms out wide. Take the arms back. Inhale. And exhale to round navel to spine. Again, 2 more. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale. Open up wide. And exhale. And have 1 more. Opening up the chest. Inhale, wide collarbones, arms back. And exhale to round. Taking the arms up, interlace the hands, reach the tops of the hands up to the sky. Take a big breath in, inhale, and exhale, side bend to the left. Come back to center. Exhale to the right. And center, release, take the hands, and let's make those big circles again, leaning forward, chest comes forward, inhale, round you go to the back, hollow the front body. Exhale, and inhale as you come back forward. And 1 more in this direction. Stopping at center. And last time, circles in the opposite direction. And last time. Back to center. Let's roll over the knees, come onto all fours. And we're coming to a few rounds of cat-cow. So tucking the toes, inhale, look up, open up the throat. And then exhale, round navel to spine, push the floor away from you, chin to chest. Again, open up the throat, eyes to the sky, inhale. And exhale, navel to spine. 2 more. And last one. Coming to neutral spine, extend the right leg nice and long, keeping the toes on the mat. Feeling how the hips feel here, and then taking the left arm out. Make a fist with the left hand. Activate the front body as you slowly lift that back leg up. Flex the heel. Keep the hips in that same level plane. Feel as though you're being pulled in 2 directions, from the wrist in one direction and the heel in the other. Keeping the activation in the front body. And gently lower. Let's come to do the same thing on the other side. So extend the left leg first, toes on the floor. Take the right arm up, upper arm in line with the ear, make a fist. And then lift that back leg, the leg, the flex. And release. Let's do that one more time on the other side. Right leg out, left arm up, fist, heel, lift the leg. And now let's bring left elbow to right knee as we round the back. Take the outside of the elbow all the way to the outside of the knee and extend on an inhale. And exhale, knee to elbow. We've got one more of those. Inhale. And exhale to round. And release. Extending the left leg, right arm lifts. Lifting up that left leg. Hold. And then let's bring right elbow to the outside of the left knee, curl. Inhale, extend. Exhale to round. Inhale, extend. Last one. Rounding the back, navel to spine, elbow to knee. And release. Take the arms out long in front of you, spread your fingers, we come into puppy pose. Take the sit bones mid-calf. Forehead comes down towards the floor. And allow the chest to sink as well as the armpits in the direction of the floor. Taking some long, smooth, deep breaths here. Taking in with the thoughts and breath. And allowing the pose to just do the work so you can turn inwards. Notice the sensation in the body. Start to take the hands to the right side of the body. Making a C shape with the upper body. Inhale deeply, you'll feel that right side of the body stretching. Intercostal muscles stretching on the left. And if you're looking for more of a stretch, take the left hand, put it on top of your right hand. And move your way back to center. Crossing through center, let's go to the left side, same thing. There's the right hand on top of your left, if you do it on the other side. And moving back through center. Taking 2 more breaths here, just resting the forehead on the floor. Let's come to thread the needle. So lifting the right arm up, open up the chest and then thread the arm between the left hand and the left knee. Like the palm facing down. And then feel as though you're pulling the floor towards you with that right hand. So you can get more of a twist in the spine. You've either got your left hand in front of your face, pushing into the hand just to lessen the weight on the head and the neck, or otherwise extend that arm out long in front of you. And then pull the floor towards you, under that left arm. And if the left hand already isn't in front of the face, just move it to the face and gently moving up, pushing through the hand, and we come back to the other side. So stretch the arms out nice and long in front of you. Take that left arm up towards the ceiling, stretching, and then thread the needle, taking the palm down to the floor. Reaching up and over with the right, or taking the right hand in front of your face. Drag the floor towards you for your extra bit of a twist. And then right hand in front of your face, pushing through the floor. Come to sit up. Sit back on your heels, flatten your feet, and we come into rabbit pose. So we're taking the crown of the head to the mat and the forehead as close to the knees as we can. So rounding down, take the forehead to the knees, top of the head to the floor, take hold of your heels, and then start to lift the sit bones up and pull on the heels round the back. Making sure you haven't got too much pressure on the head and the neck. And then release the sit bones. And let's do that one more time. Curling up, pull through the heels, round the back. And release. And back into all fours, spread your fingers, tap your toes, lift the sit bones all the way up. Come into Uttanasana, downward facing dog. Picking up the legs a little, left to right, moving the hips. And then come to stillness. Push the hands into the mat, send the sit bones up. And take a few breaths here. Begin to take tiny steps to the front of your mat until you find yourself at the front in Uttanasana, forward fold. You can bend the knees a little bit here if that feels more comfortable for you. Take hold of your elbows. Allow the weight of the head and the shoulders and the arms. Bring you a little closer to the floor, lift the sit bones. Close the eyes. And take 3 breaths here. And release the elbows. And slowly begin to roll up through the spine. Bring up the head last. Rolling the shoulders back. And find your way into Tadasana, to mountain pose. Grounding through the feet, lifting through the crown of the head. Bringing the palms of the hands facing forward, lift the chin. Parallel to the mat. With the eyes closed. And 4 rounds of inhalation and exhalation here. Noticing if the breath is shorter and shallow or deeper, longer, smoother. Checking in with the heart rate. And as you stand here, taking full inhalations and exhalations, the heart rate slowly starts to lower. And raise the arms up above the head, and then inhale, reach up, fingertips to the sky, and exhale, turn to twist to face to the right, open the arms nice and wide. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, turn to twist towards the left. Inhale, raise the arms. Exhale, forward fold. But come only halfway so the trunk is parallel to the mat. And then release all the way down. Turn to chest. Pull your tips to the mat. Inhale, come to halfway lift. Exhale to forward fold. And step back with the right leg for a low lunge. Staying on the fingertips. Widen the collarbones. Place the hands to the mat. Step back, plank pose. Coming to full or chaturanga with the knees on the mat. Lower the chest. Untuck the toes. Coming to mini cobra. Inhale. Exhale, release, tuck the toes. Downward facing dog. Look forward, step forward with the right. Followed by the left. Into forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, rise up. Arms to touch. Hands to heart. On the other side, inhale, arms up. Halfway, forward fold. Sit bones back, under the head forward. Trunk parallel to the floor. And then slowly release. Inhale, halfway lift, elongate the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Step back with the right leg, low lunge. Sorry, the left leg, low lunge. Plant the hands, step back, plank pose. Into chaturanga, or half. Bring the chest up, mini cobra, inhale. Exhale, tuck the toes, downward facing dog. Look forward, step forward with the left, follow by the right, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, raise the arms, arms to touch. Hands to heart. It's coming to Tadasana again. Taking a few breaths. Opening up the eyes. Coming into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2 on the left side. Let's take a big step back with the left and find your way into Warrior 2. Settling into the pose. And be here for 3 breaths. Take your left forearm to the thigh, and the right arm sweeps across the face. We're coming to Uttanasana, extended side angle pose. Two more breaths. Straighten up that front leg, open the arms wide, and make our way into Trikonasana, triangle pose. A little bit of softness, a little bend in the front leg as you push through the front foot, all the way up. And let's just swivel the feet to face the back of the mat as we come into Virabhadrasana 2. To the left. And taking the right forearm to the right thigh, left arm sweeps up and over. Uttanasana, extended side angle. Make sure you're resting lightly on that right forearm and that elbow. Straightening out that leg. Right leg, let's come into Trikonasana. Triangle pose. Slight bend in the right leg. As you slowly come up, hands to your hips. Turn both feet to face the front of your mat. And let's make our way into pyramid pose past Uttanasana. Keeping the spine long, taking the hands to the mat. Bending the front leg. As you push through the front foot to come to stand. Hands to the hips. And come to stand at the front of your mat. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Step back, Virabhadrasana 2 on the left side. Right forearm to the right thigh, extended side angle. Straighten the front leg. Straighten out the arms, Trikonasana, triangle pose. Soft bend in the front leg slowly. And let's turn to face the back of the mat. And Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. And as you settle into the pose, just again checking in with the breath is feeling and the heart rate. Lower the left forearm, extended side angle. Straighten out that front leg. And Trikonasana, triangle. Pumping out the right hip, reaching far with the left. And keeping the underside of the body straight. And the last 2 breaths here. Breathing in and out through the nose. And that front leg, slowly push up through the left. Hands to the hips, turn to face the front of your mat. Into pyramid pose, past Uttanasana. Into the front leg as you slowly come up to stand and step to the front of your mats. Give a little shake. And let's transfer the weight into the left foot, onto the toes of the right foot, and make your way into KRISHNAMACHARYA tree pose. So, sole of the foot to the inside of the thigh. Take the hands, free hands, find your balance, and when you're ready, start to raise the arms, keeping the palms together or hands apart when it feels more comfortable for you in the shoulders. Taking the palms together to the heart. Let's make our way into eagle. So wrapping the right thigh over the left thigh, putting the toes behind the ankle. Let's take the arms to extend out, little bend in that standing leg. Taking the left arm in front of the face, wrapping the right arm underneath, palms to touch. Take the hands away from the face, lift the elbows in line with the chin. Two more breaths. And slowly release. And just transfer the weight to the right foot, this time tree pose. Okay, hands to heart. And then keeping the palms together, arms open. Great balance on this side. You can try closing your eyes here for a few minutes. If you want to challenge your balance. And let's make our way into eagle, TADASANA. Right arm in front this time, left leg wraps around, left arm under. Arms touch. Very good balance on the side. Slowly release, coming out. Just a little shake. Inhale, arms up, exhale, full fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Stepping back into plank pose. And all the way into downward facing dog. So we're running out of time. So taking the knees to the mat. And it's just come to seated. Extend the legs out, lying in front of you. And we come to Uttanasana, so raising the arms, inhale, grow long, and forward fold. Taking hold of your toes, your ankles, your shins. Whatever feels comfortable for you. Allowing the back to round. Reach into chest. And taking a few breaths here. Slowly rolling back up. Bending the left leg, so you bring the left foot to the outside of the right hip. Run down through both sit bones, and crossing the right over, so that the knees outside the left foot. Raising the left arm, inhale, grow tall. Exhale, either taking hold of the knee with the hand or putting the elbow to the outside of the knee, right hand, reaches back up until the fingertips grow tall. And inhale. Okay, exhale, see if you can just keep it a little bit further. Keeping the chin in line with the sternum. keeping the length in the spine. And slowly release this pose. Just do a counter twist, taking both hands to the right side, pushing into the floor and rounding back. Coming back to center and changing over. This time, taking the left foot to the outside, the right foot to the outside of the left hip, and the left foot to the outside of the right knee. Inhale, right arm up, keeping that length and counter twist. Make sure you're not leaning back or forwards from side to side, but you're sitting directly on the sit bones on your axis, which is kind of the head up towards the ceiling. And release, coming into your counter pose, rounding back and twist to the other side. And release, come back to center and cross the legs. And nothing fancy, we can roll all the way down onto our backs. Bring the knees in towards the chest, rock from side to side. And then for a few minutes we did stop quite late. So just extending the legs out in front of you, take your arms up overhead, take hold of your elbows, and move your upper body towards the right, so you're making a little bit of a C shape, and then take the legs to the right as well, so we've made a half moon. Take the left ankle uncross on top of the right ankle. Keeping both elbows on the floor if you can. In the last few moments of the class, we can just tune in with thoughts, the mind. See if we can keep the mind still the last few moments. With the stillness of the mind, the quietness, match the pose. And let's move back to center. Spot the grip of the hands. And take the upper body to the left, take the legs to the left. And this time, cross the right ankle over the left. Come back to center, bend the knees. Take the legs up. Keep the knees bent, take the outside of the feet. Let's just do one pose of one happy baby. Bring the knees under the armpits. And holding for 4 breaths here. Bring the knees together, release the feet, extend the right heel to the right corner of the left heel to the left corner, and the arms out wide, making a star shape. Tucking the chin slightly in towards the chest, lengthening the back of the neck. Closing the eyes. Allowing the breath to be an anchor, bring you into the present. And imagine a bright light in the center of the chest. And every time you inhale, this light gets bigger and brighter. With each inhale, this light begins to fill the body from the center of the chest, and the legs and the arms. And with every breath, you feel lighter until the borders of your body just merge with the space around you. Your body is light, soft. Very soft in the tongue. Space between the eyebrows, smooth and soft. And the edges of the body light. And slowly begin to draw the light around you further closer to your body. And with every inhale, the light begins to slightly decrease in size, smaller, and into the chest, feeling a lightness in the chest. You begin to feel more grounded on your mat. Feeling the backs of the legs, the back of the pelvis, upper back and arms, back of the head, resting heavy on the mat. Gently begin to move your head from left to right. Bringing some movement into your fingertips and toes, rubbing your thumb over your fingertips. Making some circles with the wrists and the ankles. Take a full breath through the nose. And exhale the side through the mouth. One by one, gather your knees in towards your chest. And roll over onto your right side, taking a few breaths here, using your arm as a pillow. And placing your left hand in front of your face. Gently coming to seated, drawing up the head last with the legs crossed, the eyes closed. Place the hands on the knees with the palms facing forward, straight back. Take a full breath in through the nose. And out through the mouth at the side. Bring your hands to your heart. And today let's think of 3 things that we're grateful for and 1 small act of kindness that we can do for someone. Bow our heads to our hearts. Namaste. Now, how do I get us back? Oh, is everyone gone? There we go. You're back. Okay, good. Thank you, everybody. I think we did run a little bit of overtime, but we did start very late. Hope you enjoyed the class. Has anyone got any questions or any input?
I just wanted to add, not about the class was lovely, but it just came to me after we had the presentation that I think that there's also some differences between the Hatha and Vinyasa in terms of the sun salutations. In Vinyasa, don't you jump back into some poses, whereas Hatha is a lot slower?
It is a lot slower. Also, you know, Vinyasa, well, sun salutations, there's so many variations of it. And I just, you know, also Hatha does have some of the vinyasas, but they are very simple. And they usually use them as warming up. So it is part of the Hatha. You know, if you Google sort of traditional Hatha yoga classes, they do use a sun salutation, but they're not as you say, as powerful with the jumping back. And yeah, probably not as many of them, and there's definitely not that flow with the vinyasas. Yeah, the sun salutations in Hatha. Yeah.
That was all from me.
Good. So what I like to do with the Hatha classes is basically at the end of a Hatha class, I would like to feel like I had a good massage. So hopefully everyone is feeling like they had a good massage. Anybody else got any comments? No? Nothing?
I just want to say thank you, Claire.
You're most welcome. Absolute pleasure. Yeah, I think that's it. I'm just having a look at the and the recording. Okay, that looks like it. Girls, I hope you have a wonderful day. Message me if you've got any questions or comments, and I will see you at a later stage.
Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.